Thank you for that. Turning to Pat Breslin from Breslin Consulting.
Thank you very much. And I was remiss earlier for saying thanks for the opportunity to comment and for holding this very interesting consultation. I guess I wanted to just strongly encourage to the fullest extent possible that the calculation of these different amounts not abandon the arm's length principle, but rather preserve it as much as possible. Arm's length concepts are objective if they're properly applied. So objective, I think, is a better standard than arbitrary or discriminatory, and there is some risk that the latter two could come into effect by just a purely political solution. So I encourage an arm's length approach to determining, of course, amount B, which seems like the lowest hanging fruit for keeping transfer pricing principles in place. But I would remind others that in most contexts, residual profit is considered arm's length as long as the fixed or charges to routine functions, as we say in transfer pricing, is arm's length. So by virtue of that thought process, there's an inherent arm's nature to amount A as long as amount B is arm's length. That internal consistency is both advantageous and objective. But when it comes to allocating amount A, in particular where there is no physical presence, I do think an allocation key based on revenue for products, services, and advertising delivered in the country, it could be a reasonable and practical approach. And note I say delivered it within, so wherever the ad is placed, one needs to find the revenue associated with the placement of that ad. So if the revenue allocation is applied, the taxable profit of that company or country should take into account that there are no operating assets in the country. And this is usefully dealt with using the arm's length principle as well by applying common adjustments that appear in the transfer pricing guidelines. You simply set the margin on revenue based on some comparable situation in which the taxpayer does have physical assets, and you adjust those operating assets to a level of 0, which is described in my comments. To keep with the internal consistency, as long as we can stay arm's length with respect to amount B and amount A and the way that we allocate amount A to market jurisdictions, such as the amount called W in W percent in paragraph 59, then naturally the residual of V percent will also be arm's length. And just as a final note, what will be the standard under amount C when we have disagreements, if not the arm's length standard? To hopefully not play on words too much, but despite their common root, the word arbitration and the word arbitrary don't have the same meaning. So arbitration will need to follow some kind of objective standard. The political consensus that achieves fixed percentages here will have no bearing when two countries disagree on what is amount A, B, C, D, Z, Y, X, W, and V. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments, Pat. Next up, we have Sung Soo Han from the law firm of Yang Jay.